Hi everybody and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's on tap in this week's edition of Out of the Gate, presented by JACK Thistledown. The Grade 3 Ohio Derby for 3-year-old is this week's DRF.com formulator race of the day. Head on over to the Race of the Day event page on DRF.com. Download free formulator past performances and handicap along with us. Our in-studio handicappers, Matt Bernier, Mike Beer, and I will also preview the Wild Applause Stakes at Belmont, the Grade 3 Precisionist Stakes at Santa Anita, and we'll give our best bets for the Saturday cards. Nicole Russo will give pedigree thoughts on some of the major contenders in this year's Ohio Derby. Jonathan Kinchen will discuss a daily double at Thistledown, and Craig Milkowski's TIMEFORM U.S. Spotlight looks at the feature race at Parks. Let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our in-studio handicappers, Matt Bernier, Mike Beer, for a new segment simply titled Horse Watch. And it's very easy. Each week we're going to look at a horse that has impressed us enough to include in our Horse Watch lists on DRF.com. Hopefully we'll make a compelling case. Maybe you'll put them on the Horse Watch list as well. Very easy on DRF.com. When you sign up a horse for a Horse Watch list, you'll get email notifications whenever that horse has a workout, an entry, a result, etc. Matt, we'll begin with you.
We're going to start off with a horse called War Flag for Shug McGahee. We're going to take a look back. This is her run Sunday afternoon down at Monmouth Park. Now you got to keep in mind, you're going to see her come out in the spot shadow, coming wide down the center of the track. Takes a little while for her to find her stride, but there's some things to know about this horse. First time North America, first start in nearly an entire year. She's a foal to a horse called Lines of Battle, who we saw come over here in the Kentucky Derby a number of years ago. But the way that she finished here gives me the impression that, you know what, additional distance is going to be her friend. This is at 1 mile and 1/16. Also, keep in mind, it was against males. I think she's an interesting one. She earned a 90 by her speed figure there. I think additional distance will help her cause for Shug. I don't know that she's a grade 1 type, but I think there'll be a graded stakes race for her.
You mentioned that pedigree. Lines of Battle, of course, won the UAE Derby before ending up in the Kentucky Derby. He's now out at Hong Kong. This is the family of Dynaform, or a strong turf stallion. Mike, you're going to Naira.
Yeah, it's last Saturday at Belmont Park. Ceresa's Prince. This is a 4-year-old gelding who has really started to find himself since they switched him to turf for his last 3 starts. This is his most recent race and his 2nd win in a row. Now this won't be a visual masterpiece here through the late stages of this race. Final quarter, 27-4. He's on the lead, and he is getting very tired here. But the thing to keep in mind about this race is those horses that are fading out of your screen right now were the ones who tried to run with this horse early, and they are nowhere. He will dig in to hold off the closers late. And this was a day they canceled after one more race on this card. A ton of rain. The turf course was very soft and tiring, but he still managed to hold on. 90 by her speed figure for him as well. This horse, to me, just really upped his game on the grass, and I think he could have a pretty big future.
I'm going to go with Sero, a 7-year-old that's taken sort of a long and winding road to get to this point. Irish bred, made his career debut on the turf, a winning one in Italy, briefly on the Kentucky Derby trail, then owned by Team Valor in a partnership that included Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps. He's bounced around the claiming ranks. He's run on turf, he's run on synthetic, he's run sprinting on the dirt, and he's done well through some ups and downs. He was recently reclaimed out of this race by the powerful Rapoli stables. This was last Saturday at Churchill Downs on the Stephen Foster undercard at 6 furlongs. And Sero tracked this pace 3 wide. He goes after the sharp horse on the outside and goes right by in a solid performance. He received a 96 Beyer speed figure for this effort. He has now won 3 out of his last 4 starts, and I think he might have finally found his niche at the age of 7 sprinting on the dirt. Now, if Rapoli decides to bring him back to New York, I think he can be a high-level optional claimer during the Saratoga meet. He really loves a wet track. Any kind of wet weather at Saratoga would work in Sero's favor. If they decide to try some of the stakes competition, there's the Don Bernhardt at Ellis Park, the Robert Byrd at Mountaineer, $50,000 to $75,000 stakes. In the current form he's in, he might deserve an opportunity in those races. Now time for handicapping. Our DRF.com formulator race of the day is the Ohio Derby. This week's Out of the Gate is presented by Jack Thistledown, and let's take a look at the field for our DRF.com Formulator Race of the Day, the Grade 3 Ohio Derby. For 3-year-olds at 1 1/8, head on over to the Race of the Day event page on DRF.com, and please download free Formulator past performances. You'll also have an expanded Race of the Day handicapping preview. Lots of familiar names in this year's Ohio Derby as we take a look at the field from the Kentucky Derby Trail. Girvin, Irap, Fast and Accurate, etc. Let's talk, Mike, about Girvin, 2-to-1 morning line. Mike Smith's been winning just about everything.
Right.
He really can't take the Derby at face value. This horse had all kinds of foot problems leading up to the race. They ran him anyway. Do you trust Joe Sharp to have him ready for this one?
Yeah, there are plenty of excuses to be had for the Derby. I don't think that's the race that you want to focus too much on with this horse. I think you want to look at what he did prior to that, and what he did prior to that was go 3 for 3 on dirt and win a couple of graded stakes races. He's a good horse. I don't know, Dan. I can't say that I love this horse in this race, but I sort of understand why he's 2-to-1 on the line, why he'll be the favorite at post time, and why he's the horse to beat, because he is the horse to beat.
I agree with you that he's the horse to beat. Like you, I'm not really thrilled at him, especially at his short price. What about Irap, Matt? Of course, he won his maiden in a big stunner in the Bluegrass. He beat some big names in that race. Is this a horse that's finally figuring things out, or at a shortish price, you're not a big fan of him either?
I don't like him at all. This is the kind of horse where I know he won the Bluegrass, but keep in mind, you needed to be speed, you needed to be inside at Keeneland that day. He had both of those things in his favor. Nobody was really doing any running from the back, and you had a number of excuses for some of the bigger names in there. McCracken, that was his first start in a number of months. Irap's just a very uninteresting horse to me. Keep in mind, he won that race and he was still a maiden. He hung on his left lead throughout. Of the two favorites in here, I would take Girvin every day of the week.
But you're going to go for a price in here, and Luch Stables would love to win the Ohio Derby. They have a 3-ply entry. It might be game over for the Kentucky Derby contenders.
Yeah, game over is just, he kind of just felt like the only new shooter in here that did anything for me. He's still lightly raced. He's only gone out twice. He's still a little bit on the green side. The stretch out and distance is going to be a major question mark in this spot. I don't know what we're going to get going from 7/8 of a mile out to 1 1/8, but boy, he's looked interesting in each of his past 2 starts, and we'll find out. And he's going to be just a much better price than the favorites.
Mike, you agree with Matt's assessment of this race? Game over. Got a real education last time out at Churchill Downs. Down inside in a real tight spot. Had to alter course at a crucial point. He was running out of time, and he still got there. And he's bred to handle the 2 turns.
Yeah, I like both of his starts, and I do agree that, you know, the pedigree, as far as his pedigree goes anyway, he's supposed to be able to get this far. I don't love horses stretching out like this, but it's not really supposed to be a problem for him. At the end of the day, I agree with everything Matt said about him, and it's really just more of an anti-favorite opinion from my perspective. I don't like Irap. I don't love Girvin. I'd like to take a shot against those 2 horses in here, and he's the only horse I could do it with.
So many question marks in this race. I'm going to use game over in any kind of multiple race wager. I think Sorry Eric might be an interesting face because he can handle this distance. But of the Derby runners, I'm interested in Untrapped. We're going to go back to Untrapped earlier this year in the Rebel Stakes, a race where looked a lot like some of other Untrapped's races on the Kentucky Derby Trail. The old bid flattened. He's in major contention here in mid-stretch, and he just can't finish with these horses late. And I think it's a question of maybe this distance is a little bit far. He's going to have to go 1 1/8, but I think against this company, he has the potential to work out a nice trip. I think he'll be sitting in 3rd early. I think he will know Untrapped when they turn into the stretch, and I'm hoping against this sort of competition, Untrapped 9-2 or so seems like a fair price. He can get the 1 1/8. Untrapped's going to be not my top pick in the Ohio Derby. Now let's go to Nicole Russo. She's got some pedigree thoughts for this year's Ohio Derby.
Hey guys, Nicole Russo here from Out of the Gate to give you a closer look at some of the 3-year-olds in Saturday's Ohio Derby. There are 4 in this field who you're going to recognize who came out of the Kentucky Derby, and of course we analyzed their pedigrees at length all spring leading up to the Classics. Girvin by Tale of a Cotty out of a multiple graded producing Malibu Moon Mare. Irap, a big husky colt typical of Sire Tisnow, is a half-brother to champion sprinter Speightstown, and Untrapped and Fast and Accurate, both by young sons of leading sire Tappet. So I want to give you a closer look at some of the newcomers in this field who you may be getting to know over the 2nd season for the 3-year-olds, which is getting underway. Let's start with Hinton. He's a long shot on the morning line, but he runs for Ohio Connections. You know they've targeted this race. He's by Candy Ride, who has sired dirt route winners like the late champion Shared Belief and Gun Runner currently on the track. Hinton is 2 for 2 around 2 turns, keeping with that family. He gets a lot of class from his female family, too. His dam is a half to multiple graded winner Goldings Green, and to stakes winner Filer de Oro. Solid middle distance ability there. More speed further back, as this is the family of Ballerina winner Stop Traffic, but she's the dam of Whitney winner Cross Traffic, so a lot of class, distance should be well within his scope. Game Over, one of 3 in here for Luch Racing, broke his maiden in a claimer at Oaklawn, and then came back to win a starter allowance at Churchill Downs. He's stepping way up in class, but he actually tucks in nicely behind the favorites in terms of buyer speed figures. He earned an 84 last out, the second best last out figure in the field behind Sorry Eric's 85. For comparison's sake, the top career numbers in the field, a 93 for both Girvin and Irap, so that gives you a sense of how he measures up. Game Over is by Mineshaft, of course, an AP Indy stallion, so you would think this 2-turn middle distance would suit him. He's out of a Canadian Grade 3 winner, and it's the family of turf-graded winners like Closeout and Capital Request. The female family slanted towards those surfaces, but with Mineshaft on top to provide the durability, you'd seem to have some balance there. Talk less. There is evidence for whether you're against him or for him. He's coming in off 2 straight wins in Ohio, including an allowance at Thistledown last out. His buyers are well below the field's best, but there is that affinity for the track. He's by Blame, who is from a versatile sire line and who's becoming a good turf sire. Just got his first career Group 1 winner in the French Oaks. This is the immediate female family of Turf Grade 1 winner Data Link. However, you also have a prominent dirt runner coming from the cross in the immediate family. This colt's dam is a half to Vespers, dam of Don Handicap winner Hymn Book, that one by Arch, the sire of Blame. The other 2 in here, Sorry Eric, coming in from California for Keith DeSormo, and Vibe, the 3rd Luch entrant, actually met in a claiming race at Santa Anita when they were 1-2. Both are from the AP Indy line, which we've mentioned. Sorry Eric is by Grade 2 winner Will Byrne, by AP Indy's Preakness winning champion Bernardini. Vibe is from the first crop of AP Indy's son Astrology, who was 3rd in the Preakness. I'll be up at Thistledown for Ohio Derby Day on Saturday. You can follow along on Twitter and DRF Live for updates from the ground on these horses. For now, stay tuned for more Out of the Gate after these messages.
Ladies and gentlemen of Cincinnati, clear your dance cards, because this is an invitation from Jack. Jack says the best business to get into is monkey business. Jack says once in a lifetime can happen every night. Damn the torpedoes and tomorrow morning. Prepare to live it up, live it loud, and relive it all over late night chilly 3-way. Because Cincinnati, this is really happening.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate, presented by Jack Thistledown. We're going to move to Naira, where the feature race is the Wild Applause Stakes. Let's take a look at this field. For 3-year-old fillies going a mile on the Widener turf, and the number 6 Rubelinda, regally bred daughter of Frankel, broke the internet with her career debut for Chad Brown. She was extremely visually impressive. Chad found a nice stake spot for her second start. Mike Beer, is she worth 8-5 or less on the morning line, because you know she's getting pounded at the windows?
Yeah, I think be prepared to take less on Rubelinda in this race. Is she worth it? I don't think so, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, off of her career debut, which was a visually impressive win, especially that last 1/8 of a mile or so when she finally figured it out and really kicked it in. I mean, I guess I was maybe almost as impressed as everybody else seemed to be. This the stretch out in distance, I guess, is supposed to be fine for her, but she has the feeling of a horse who's going to be way overbet in this race.
Matt, she could be any kind. She really did storm home in that debut, especially when she switched to the outside, but she's facing tougher horses. She's stretching out for the first time. In Shad, I trust. I understand that. She's a horse you have to use in any kind of multiple race wager, but at a short price, aren't you supposed to try to beat her?
Yeah, I think she's the sort of definition of a horse that you want to take a shot against, and it has nothing to do with the horse herself. I mean, again, you guys made mention she was so impressive when she finally kind of figured out what the heck she was supposed to be doing. She's still very green. Keep in mind, it's only going to be your second lifetime start. All the sort of room for improvement here, but at a short number against some, keep in mind, the other runners in here, they're all pretty good. She's just the kind of horse that I think you're supposed to take a shot against.
For expanded stakes previews of many of the major stakes races, certainly all of the graded ones this weekend, head on over to video.drf.com. Okay, not the favorite, Mike? Who?
It could be just about any of the other ones in here. I took a shot with the 5 Tahlequah for Kieran McLaughlin. She's run 4 times. I guess if you just want to, pick her apart on paper a little bit, she comes in a little bit light on figures. I don't think speed figures tell the whole story with this filly, though. She's run well in all 4 of her starts. She had a big trip at Keeneland, 2 starts back. Never really got a fair chance to run, and I liked her win last time. That pace was not fast in front of her. She sat last. She came wide. She closed it down at the end with a good finish. I think she fits in this field really well, and she feels like she'll be a very fair price in this race.
She showed a lot of heart and determination to reel in the leader in her most recent start. Matt, I'm a little bit concerned with Tahlequah and maybe even with the favorite Rubelinda about the lack of pace in this race. I don't think they're going to be going fast. I want someone up close. I think you agree.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like Rumgo down on the inside, and as far as the pace is concerned, I assume Lull is going to clear off to the front, and I think Rumgo is right there with her, pressing throughout for Brad Cox. The most recent run at Indiana Grand, I thought it was impressive, all things considered. Now, keep in mind, much lesser company. Now you're going to be stepping up, facing some big girls in this spot, but if that is what she's turned into for Brad Cox, I think she's another one that we may only be scratching the surface, and maybe there's still more good things to come.
I agree with Matt concerning Rumgo. Boy, she ran a fast race in her first start for Brad Cox. I hope she's not dressed up a little bit by that trip, because it doesn't get much better than that. 2 horses going fast in front of her. She just was able to save ground in the pocket. You could have drove a Mack truck through the hole in between that Rumgo went through, but she also finished it up very nicely. And if the pace of this race is slow, I can see her either going to the front or sitting second just off Lull, perhaps getting the jump on Tahlequah, perhaps getting the jump on Rubelinda coming into the stretch. We'll see if Rumgo and Javier Castellano can do it one more time in the Wild Applause Stakes. Now we're going to head out west for the Precisionist. The Precisionist Stakes at Santa Anita is one of 2 graded events at the Great Race Place on Saturday. Let's take a look at this field. It's a short field, only 5, but there are a lot of intriguing storylines in play. For expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races, other major stakes races throughout the country, head on over to video.drf.com. Before we get to our top selections, Mike Beer, I want your opinion on Donworth, the number 1 of 2 in here, trained by Doug O'Neill. Donworth is a horse that's had so much talent and so much potential. The problem is he's had so many injuries.
I wish you would have asked Matt that question for his opinion on Donworth, because I don't think you and I really agree on him. I'll be honest with you. He can run a little bit. I've never understood all the hype around this horse. To me, he's the kind of horse who gets a big following for all the wrong reasons, and I've never understood anybody thought he was that good, and I don't really like him that much in this race.
What are the wrong reasons? I'm a little concerned. What are the wrong reasons? This horse has run some big races.
Yeah, well, he's won some big races. Which one? The Stanton?
He's run some big races.
He did win the Stanton. You're right. I forgot about that one. He's one of those horses I think people, they got excited about his first couple of starts, and he's one of those big, you hear he's a big, good-looking horse. All those things that don't really mean anything. To me, his races just aren't that good.
Matt, I think he's being very uncharitable towards our good friend Donworth. Please help me defend this big, good-looking horse.
I think there's some talent here. The problem has always been for this horse, not only the fact that he's ouchy, but he's his own worst enemy, and I think that has always held him back from possibly showing what he's capable of. Now, to date, he really doesn't have a heck of a lot to show as far as accomplishments are concerned, but he's at least shown the ability that, you know what, when things do go his way, he can put up a good number. The problem is, it's been a long, long time, and I have no idea if he can still run.
I liked his 3 races last year. He came off an extremely long layoff. I believe it was the San Antonio. He ran his eyeballs out. He got into all kinds of trouble in the big cap. And then the Charlestown Classic, a race that was dominated on the front end. He was one of the few horses making up a little bit of ground. The long layoff is a concern. I almost picked Donworth in here. I think he is going to run well. O'Neill doesn't have any time to waste bullets. He's going to have this horse cranked up and ready to go. Mike, you liked Accelerate a little bit in the Gold Cup at Santa Anita. Yeah. They scratched him for this supposedly easier spot, and you don't like him here.
Yeah, I was just willing to take a shot with them maybe in the Gold Cup just because I hated the favorite in that race, and I just felt like it was a good spot to take alternatives. I don't know if I feel the same way about this race. In some ways I do, though, and I do like the shorter distance for him, too. I could have easily gone back to him, but he's 5-2 on the morning line, and I wouldn't be betting him at that price. So I decided to go in a totally different direction in this race, but we'll see what happens. I think Accelerate can win.
Before we get to your pick, Matt, the horse to beat is Collected, who is 2 for 2 this year. The blinkers came off, and he's just looked like a completely different horse for trainer Bob Baffert.
Yeah, the concern here is, and I understand anyone that brings up the argument that he was supposed to run in the Gold Cup and what happened, and Baffert said, I'm not pleased with it. Well, he ended up kind of audibling here, and I think a lot of it had to do with Baffert in the back of his mind, knowing that Cupid was sitting on go. Collected's most recent start, he was nothing short of awesome in that spot. He went out there and just absolutely buried the field. I think if you get anything close to that effort, he's going to do the same thing to this field.
He's going to be a short-priced favorite in here, but his good tactical speed puts him instead. Mike, you like the X factor in this race, and that's Keen, the other O'Neill trainee, another horse coming off a bit of a layoff, but a horse that was sharp in South America.
Yeah, I'm not way against Collected in here. I do think he's the horse to beat. I just wanted to take a small shot with Keen in this race. He's got really good dirt form down in South America. We'll see what happens as he ships up here, but he's got a halfway decent reputation, this horse. He gets Lasix for this race for O'Neill. I personally could only find one video of his races down there in Argentina. It's his most recent race, a Group 1 at 1.5 miles, and I liked what I saw that day. He had a lot of speed in that race. He kept going through the stretch. The horse that he held off took a big, long run at him, and he just kept finding more to turn that horse away. I just feel like this is a horse who could be pretty good, and maybe he fits really well in this field at a price.
Now, I watched that race as well. Had an Americanized feel to it in that he showed some big speed from the start. Nice, easy speed, and just kept right on going. Not sure if he's going to have that same sort of speed off the bench at 1 1/16. As Mike mentioned, that race was 1.5 miles, but I do think this horse has some ability. I mean, he was originally purchased to run in the Dubai World Cup. The connections think a lot of Keen, and he should be a nice price. I'm going to go with Collected in here. Let's take a look at that last race. It was a race that Matt mentioned. It was the San Antonio. A lot of folks wondered maybe Collected wouldn't be as effective at this 1 1/8 distance, and he took some pace pressure throughout. Those are some legitimate fractions. He's putting away the other pace horses, and he just keeps right on rolling to a big buyer speed figure performance. You're going to see Follow Me Krev come into second. Follow Me Krev backed this race up with another good second place finish in that $500,000 Grade 1 Gold Cup at Santa Anita. I think Collected's going to sit another very good trip, and I like him at 1 1/16. Matt's also picking Collected on top in this spot, but I have to admit, I've got to use a little bit of Donald. Such a big, good-looking horse. It's something Mike doesn't like for some reason. We've got a couple of other great programming features here on Out of the Gate. Let's go to Jonathan KINCHEN'S Corner, then the Timeform U.S. Spotlight. Craig Milkowski's looking at the feature race at Parks.
Hey everybody, welcome to KINCHEN'S Corner. This week we're going to take a little trip to the Midwest, Thistledowns, for Ohio Derby Day. We're going to play a little double here into what I think could be a really valuable opportunity in the Ohio Derby. Okay, we'll start in the stakes race, race 7, the William Petro Memorial Handicap. One of the interesting things you'll see when you go through these PPs, especially when you're looking at Timeform US, is you'll see a lot of speed. And not only are you going to see a lot of speed, but you're going to see a lot of sprinters that are stretching out to 2 turns for the first time. Most of those situations typically to result in the pace falling apart. I'm going to take 2 closers here, but I'm also going to use a horse that I think can be the speed of the speed. A lot of times when these jockeys see the same form that we see, they'll be a little bit more reluctant to go to the front end and not cook themselves and have to come back and look at the connections and come up with some excuses why they were on a pace going 21, going 2 turns. So that one horse that I think could be the speed of the speed is Just a Little Smoke, the 4 horse. Stretching out, I think he might be tough in this spot, and so I'm going to use that horse, but I'm also going to use the 2 closers that I think have the best ability to come late. That's going to be the 9 School Board for Prez and the 11 Sunny Days, who's first off the claim. Like to think that the claim was made in order to try to get this horse ready for this spot. So in the first leg, race 7, I'm going to use the 4, the 9, and the 11. Going on to the feature, the Grade 3 Ohio Derby, you'll see some Derby horses that are back. You'll also see some Derby Day horses that are back, and those horses typically take a ton of money in these days. Irap, for me, is one that I thought he was on the good part of the track at Keeneland, and his poor run in the Derby suggests that might be the case. Untrapped, I'm not really sure he wants to go 2 turns, and so we'll see what's going to happen with that one in this spot. They'll probably take some money. And then Girvin. I was a little bit reluctant to toss Girvin in this spot just because I didn't really think Girvin was going to run well in the Derby. He kind of ran through my negative opinion, ran better than I thought he was going to run, running 13th in that spot. But for me, it's all about Luch racing here. Ron Paolucci is from Ohio. This is a race that I know he wants to win. He's got 3 horses entered in here. And I still don't think, when was the last time you get an entry with 3 horses and you still might be the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th choice? I'm going to give one of these horses an opportunity to win here with a ton of value, fading the horses coming out of the Kentucky Derby. So as a recap, I'm going to play a double 4, 9, 11 with a 1. Good luck. See you next week.
Hi, this is Craig Milkowski at Timeform US for Out of the Gate. Today we're going to look at the 8th race from Parks on Saturday. It's a little bit of an interesting race in that it's a $100,000 purse, so almost like a stakes race, but it's for horses that have started for a $16,000 claiming price in either 2016 or 2017. So basically a starter allowance with a big purse. What's interesting, a good thing about this story is all the entry and starting fees are going to be donated to Turning for Home, which is a thoroughbred rescue effort for aftercare. One thing to note here is the race rating for the race is a 112, and I kind of keep that in mind as I go through the field and look at all the horses to see if they're contenders or not, and I'm going to focus on those that I thought were contenders. First, we're going to look at the Timeform US pace projector, which shows that a fast pace is expected. You can see that with the red oval there, it says fast pace. It's a big field. And in this case, not only is it a fast pace, it looks to be contested. We got a bunch of horses bunched together in the front. So it's a race where I'm kind of looking for horses that will come from somewhat off the pace. Let's start with looking at a couple of the horses that will get bet. Number 1 is Maritime Pulpit. It's a horse that's won a couple in a row. He ran a 110 Timeform US speed figure last out. But there's a couple things I don't particularly like. The last time he ran in a race with this high of a class rate, or Timeform US race rating, it's kind of like a class rating, 112, he didn't fare very well. He dropped down in the lower company, and he's been setting slow paces while on the lead and winning, and the pace projector says that's going to be a tough road today. The next horse is Harpoon. He will probably be the race favorite. If not, he'll be right up there. And he's just been a machine of late. He almost always wins. You can see in the graphic he's only lost 1 of his last 7 races. The signs I don't particularly like is he hasn't been up as close to the pace in his last couple, even though he did win his last race. And his speed figures have tailed off. You see a 112, 117, 113 back in his past performances. And the last couple have been a 96 and a 104. So, as a favorite, that's not really a kind of horse I'm looking to bet. A horse I do like is number 8, Zanotti. He's a horse he's been first or second in his last 5. He ran his best last out, a 110 Timeform US speed figure. He's a very versatile horse. He kind of likes to run in the mid-pack, and you can see in his past performances, even when he changed from a 5.5 furlong sprint to a mile route, he was still able to lay off the pace, rate comfortably, and finish well. He's probably going to take quite a bit of money and may even vie for favoritism, but I think he's going to be tough in here. The horse I'm going to focus my wagers on is number 5, Battle Midway. He's shipping in from New York. He's definitely got the closing style that we're looking for in this race. And you can see his race ratings in the left-hand column there. He's been running against better horses, say 116, 114. So he's been a little bit over his head, but he's run the speed figures to match. He has a 113 4-back, 3-back. He ran a 109 against a slow pace, which you can see in the blue fractions when he tried to close into that. And last time out, he ran on Belmont Day, and he was probably just a little bit over his head there. I mean, those were some tough horses. The Big Fundamental won that day. But I think he finds the right class, and he's the one I'm going to focus my wagers on. I will bet him to win, and I'll play an exacta box with the 8 Zanatti. That's it for Timeform US today. Let's send it back to Dan in the studio.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate, presented by Jack Thistledown. Time for our best bets segment. We'll begin with Mike Beer, who got washed out due to the elements last week, scratched the week before. We take those out of the loop. You're in pretty good form. 3 out of your last 4. They only lost by 2 noses at a nice price.
Could have gone right back to the horse from last week too, because they brought that race back for this Saturday. But I'm going to go into a different race at Belmont Park, race number 7, a turf race for New York breds, and the horse that I like is number 4. Voodoo Song. This horse has made his most recent 3 starts on the main track, and they're not very good. But I just don't think he's a very good dirt horse. He is back to turf on Saturday for the first time since this race that we can look at right now. This is his maiden win last November at Aqueduct. This horse got a little headstrong early on in the race, but he was able to rate over behind horses. And he rode that trip all the way into the stretch until they produced him in the clear. Right here about mid-stretch, he gets clear from behind horses, and I just like the way that he comes and gets these horses in front of him. He finishes this race off very, very well. He's a son of English Channel. I think he was meant for turf. I think he's way better on this surface, and he gets back to it for the first time on Saturday since this race, and he's 12-1 on the morning line.
Matt, you're heading to the Jersey Shore from a turf route to a dirt sprint.
Well, you know, you say you guys are in good form. I am not in good form right now, and sometimes you need a confidence booster. And I'm hopeful that the Jersey Shore, the 10th race down at Monmouth on Saturday afternoon, is kind of the thing that can get me back. Pro Forma is the number 4. This is a horse most recently ran the Chick Lang on the Preakness undercard against some pretty good runners, and unfortunately, this doesn't look like it's anything too spectacular. But keep in mind, this was his first start as a 3-year-old. First start in about 5 months, and he ran into a couple of Sharpies. You've got Recruiting Ready out there on the front. We saw what he came back to do in the Woody Stevens. Aquamarine, they tried to stretch him out. That was a bit of a silly decision. And then you've got 3 rules in there. We know what he's capable of. So Pro Forma's performance in this spot here in the Chick Lang may not look all that spectacular, but when you consider the field that he's going to face Saturday afternoon, and again, I'm not going to make you rich with this one. He's 2-1 on the morning line. He may even come down from there a little bit. I just need some sort of confidence in my life. And guess what? The way I'm going right now, maybe I bury this horse too. But I hope that's not the case. Pro Forma in the Jersey Shore.
I'm going to the Timeform US Spotlight race. It's the feature at Parks, race number 8, the Turning for Home Stakes, going down towards the inside with some speed. Maritime Pulpit was claimed, I believe, 4 starts back by Georgie Navarro, who's turned this horse around. He's won his last 2 races very impressively with some fast numbers, including this score at Delaware Park most recently, where he just goes right to the front. He sets a legitimate pace, and he keeps right on going. There might be some other speed in the Timeform US Spotlight race, the feature at Parks, but Maritime Pulpit, I think with an aggressive ride, can control this from the start. He is in raging good form for a red-hot trainer. He is 4-1 on the morning line, and I think Maritime Pulpit can make it 3 in a row for Georgie Navarro, and he doesn't have to bring his racetrack with him. He wins at Gulfstream, he wins at Delaware. Maybe he can do it at Parks. Maritime Pulpit, my best bet. Parks, race number 8, 4-1 on the morning line. We thank you so much for watching this week. We'll see you next time. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.